I'm going to show you how I do my research once I go out in the field until I come back and I tell you the stories that I tell you, the short ones, the little shorts. So I'll do a longer video later on how I do greater research to write a full-length podcast or to write up a family history to give to my clients. But let's get started. Let's say I went out to the cemetery and I found this person and I don't know who they are. So let me show you what that looks like. I found this particular person buried out at Friendship Cemetery. It is a sizable city cemetery here in Columbus, Mississippi, where I live. And they've been burying people there since about the 1850s. And then they have some headstones they brought from other cemeteries and placed them there. So let's say I'm looking for Walter Chew Brewer, who apparently was a doctor. He was born March of 1874, November 28th of 1832. Now, I know that Find a Grave is free. So let's go to Find a Grave to the homepage. And so in Find a Grave, I can either browse specifically by cemetery, which will then allow me to look for an individual, or will have all the individuals that someone has cataloged in here. Or if I don't know where this person is buried, I can just search worldwide. So I'm going to put his name, Walter Chew Brewer, and I know that he was born in 1874 because I saw that on the gravestone. I can choose exact, or I can do an estimate of years to be inclusive. Let's say you're not really sure, you just kind of have an estimate. You think they were born in 1874, but it could have been 1864, it could have been 1884. You just kind of have an idea. We happen to know this person's death date because we started with going to their headstone and pulling the date off of it. You have to remember 95% of the people that I do these shorts on, I don't know who they are. I don't know anything about them. I don't know anything about their history. So in order to do the research, this is often where I start. And then I know that this one is in Columbus, Lowndes County, Mississippi. There it is. It pops up. Now, I'm going to hit search. All right, there he is. Dr. Walter Chew Brewer. Okay. Now, this one, some of these don't have much information, but this one actually does. I know that he was born in Elbert County, Georgia. He's in plot 725. So I'm gonna make a note here. I know he's in plot 725. That marks that for me so that when I go back to make the video with the information, I remember exactly where it is. And there's a map that corresponds with this cemetery. Not all of them will have a plot number. Some of them might have a plot section, which doesn't always make it easy to go back and find the person that you're researching and go back to do the video. But I digress. I know that these were his parents and these were his siblings, and apparently they lost a lot of children, which is really sad. There are some photos, which we'll look at in a minute. There are a few records on Ancestry. So we can either look at them here, or we can click on them from here, or we can go into Ancestry. As I said, I have a subscription to Ancestry and it's been invaluable to me. So now I'm going to look at this. There's anyone, if you click on one picture, it opens up this gallery and you can look at all of them. Now, I see this is Dr. Brewer, handsome man, wears glasses, very polished. Look at him in front of his car. Oh my gosh. I'm not good with cars, but I think that's a Chrysler. I'm not real certain, but boy, isn't that a good looking vehicle. He's got his doctor's bag. He's sharp. And there's that is in that's the center stone in the center of the grave section where he's buried in the family plot. And there's that headstone that we saw earlier. And oh my, men kill each other. Dr. W.C. Brewer, 56, prominent Columbus surgeon who owned the Columbus Hospital, and Charles H. Jacob, 48, a prominent businessman and a member of an old family, died from a street gun battle. The cause of the shooting was undetermined. Now, I know the legend that goes with this, but now, if I didn't know that legend, it gives me so much more that I have to go look for. So I can go to Chronicling America, or if you have a subscription, you can go to newspapers.com. I use newspapers.com because I have the subscription. And sometimes I do also go in Chronicling America. And you can look up um, more information. But we'll look at that next. But now we know something drastic happened. Okay. Very interesting. So now I've got a couple of things. I also want to know who Charles H. Jacob was. So now I'm going to make a note that that may be another grave I'm going to go look at and write a short on and do a short video. Isn't this cool? Okay. So now I'm going to close this. We've gathered just about everything we can from this. I don't know for certain if you don't have a subscription to ancestry.com, if you click on this, if you can actually see anything. I do, so I'm going to click on it. So let's click. He's apparently he should fall on the 1880 census. That should be from when he's a child. Now, he didn't grow up in Columbus. So let's look where his parents were living in 1880. In the 1880 census, he's 6 years old. He lived in Blackhawk, which is in Carroll County, not that far from Greenwood. It's up in the hills. His father was born in Georgia. His mother was born in Mississippi. There are his parents' names. And these are the people living in the home. And it tells you their relationship to the head of the household. And there they are. There's little Walter when he was a little boy, age 6. Now we find all these other things about Walter. And we can go over here. 90% of the time, these are actually connected to the correct person, especially this one that has his middle name. But I'm going to try and do these chronologically. So this is the census that we were looking at. So there's not a 1890 census. So let's go to 1900. Let's look at the 1900 census. By 1900, he's still living in Carroll County. And he's a doctor now. He's graduated school. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to go back. So I know in 1900, he's graduated university. Well, look, there's a college student listing right here. So I'm going to go pull that up. He went to Ole Miss, the University of Mississippi, and he was there in 1910. And let's see if we can't find his name on this list. There's other names. Walter Chew Brewer, Department of Diplomas, Columbus. So he was already associated with the city of Columbus at this time. So that's interesting. That gives me something more to go look up and go find out more about. The date of this is 1910. So now I'm not sure what year this city directory is, but we've also got his World War I draft card and his civilian draft registration. So I'm going to pull up his draft card. His draft card has him in 1917, living at 1001 Main Street here in Columbus, Mississippi. He's medium height, medium build, short, dark hair, blue eyes, and it lists his mother. And we can click on this actual document and look at it. And I can see information. His present occupation is he's a physician and surgeon. And it's really difficult to read this. I could blow this up, but it's the hospital on Main Street. And this was, he registered, he was 44 years old in March of, and he was born March of 1874 per his draft card. And his mother is listed as his next of kin. And he signed it. There we can see what his signature looked like. Okay. So now I'm going to go down here. I'm going to look at this city directory just to kind of see what year this is. So now Columbus had city directories. Not all towns have scanned their city directories and uploaded them into Ancestry.com, but many of them have. So right here, he's listed, this is 1912. You can see the right up here at the top. He's listed as Walter C. Brewer, physician and surgeon at Columbus Hospital. So he was at he owned Columbus Hospital. We know that from that obit we read. Let's see what else we can find out. So now we've seen that. Let's go see if we can find a full obituary. Here's a full obituary right here. There's a story. Apparently well, so this is Walter W. Brewer. So that's where we start ruling out people who aren't our person. But we can go through these further, find other census records. But I want to go here and look at what this article might be. It's from 1913. Oh, his niece got married. Well, there you go. That's not important to what we're doing, but if you wanted to know um, a little bit of family history, you can use that. Let's see if I can get out of this one and go back. And I want to pull up that obituary. Let's pull up that obituary. Where'd it go? The longer, oh, here it is, the long obituary. Maybe this will tell us more. Here we go. It was reported in the Mandan newspaper in Mandan, North Dakota. Well, that's interesting. Prominent men of Mississippi in fatal duel. Surgeon and merchant stage sensational pistol battle and both die. An unexplained pistol duel in the middle of the street cost the lives of a surgeon and a businessman of a prominent family. W.C. Brewer, owner of the hospital, Mississippi's foremost surgeon, was killed outright, his body punctured by several bullets. Charles H. Jacob, the businessman, was struck only once but died on the way to the hospital. No witnesses came forward to tell just what had happened. So I can go do some research now and I can find out more about Charles Jacob and his wife and their three children for another podcast episode or YouTube short. But I know that there was a street battle between them. I know more about this from legend, but I can also now go look up. I can go to Chronicling America, or I can look further in newspapers.com to find out more about this information. But I have enough now for a short. We now know where he's buried. We know where he was born. We know that he was a doctor and a surgeon. We know that he drove a fancy car. We know the person that he was in the shootout with. We know that he owned Columbus Hospital. Now, in my shorts, I only have 50 something seconds. It has to be under a minute. So I try to keep my shorts between 52 and 58 seconds. I find that the sweet spot for my crowd is about 58 seconds. If it's any longer, they don't watch. So I now have enough to go back. What's interesting is that I do know that the day that the funeral was organized for these two men, one man's funeral was their funerals were held the same day, and one man's funeral was about an hour before the other, and they had to have a police presence down there to make sure that the two families and the two sets of mourners didn't shoot each other or get into further dispute. The other thing is they're in the same section. They're only about 4 rows apart in the cemetery. So I find that very interesting. They're buried very close in death. Um, so it's all very interesting. Now, I can go and find out more uh, through newspapers.com or through Chronicling America. So let's pull up Chronicling America. I'm gonna pull this up. In Chronicling America, as you can see, I can pull up all states. I can put a date in here. So I'm gonna put 19, the year of this was 1932. I'm going to put to 1932 because I'm going to really limit this. And I'll put 1933 just for giggles. And then I'm going to put in Walter Chew Brewer. And let's see if anything comes up for us. Oh, look, what do we have here? That might be an advertisement. Let's look and see what this is. This is the Lexington Observer. Is this, what's the date? I'm gonna pull it up. Dr. Brewer slain in double killing. I now have more information. Walter Brewer, 56, prominent physician, known in Black Hawk and Lexington. Scenes of his boyhood was slain in that city. And it goes on and it tells he was unmarried. He was survived by a brother and a sister. And he is prominently connected in Holmes, Carroll, and LaFleur County. It's all very interesting now that we know a little bit more. So I can keep doing research in the newspapers and see what I could find. And that's pretty much what I do. I then take this, I write a script that's just essentially a paragraph. Um, I have to keep practicing it until I cut it so that it's less than a minute. Then I go out in the cemetery. Hold my iPhone in my hand. I film it. I shoot it. It's not perfect. I read the script. I don't memorize it. I do it that way on purpose because I think it fits what I'm doing. You can do it. I don't do any post-production work. You can, um, but it's a 58-second video. And I take that information and I just upload it right there while I'm standing at the cemetery. And then I give it a title. I select my hashtags. I go very broad with my hashtags. I found that's more successful. Instead of saying like history of Mississippi or history of Columbus, I put history. Even though that's a big search term, it seems to work best on the shorts, to be as broad as possible and and it'll tell you how widely searched that term is. And so I want to go for the bigger numbers, 56,000 or a million or whatever. I want to know that that's a highly competitive number, but it's kind of counterintuitive to what a lot of information that's out there on how to create hashtags for what you're doing. It tells you to be more specific. In this case, broad is better. The other thing I do after that is I post it immediately. Before I've even left home, I post them at roughly the same time every day. It just happens to be when I go out and walk my dogs early in the morning. I push the video out. I share it. I only share mine to X and to my Facebook page. You can share further. It just happens to be how I do it. And off it goes out into the universe. And I find for me that works. I hope that's what works for you. I'm Shannon Evans with the Tombigbee Tales, and this is what I do. I hope this is helpful and it gives someone else the inspiration to go and capture history in their community and in their cemeteries. I'll be going to more cemeteries in our community. Um, I just happened to start with this one. It's one of the biggest ones. And but I do go to others. This just happens to be convenient for me, and I've always found it fascinating. There's so many people that are just everyday human beings who lived and worked in this beautiful little town, and built this community. And this is where many of them, and especially the early pioneers of this town, this is where they're buried. And I've found people that go from being, there's carriage makers and um, people who were sign painters and bricklayers and brick workers and architects and statesmen and senators and um, soldiers who died in battle and um, people who died of, measles and typhoid fever. And they all came from all walks of life. And it's fascinating to me to know who these people were that I see every day when I walk by their grave. And I'm like, going, who the heck is that? And what's their story? So I always want to know the story. And it's easy. You can go find the story and you can write that story and you can make it a long version or you can make it a short. But I encourage you, go try and start with a short. Create you a little YouTube channel and make it work for you and start telling those stories so that the next generation has something to think about and know about when they're walking through that cemetery or through that space in your town that you think it's important that people know about. Anyways, that's what I do. It's not rocket science. It's not that difficult. It's kind of fun. And if nothing else, it's interesting. I hope this is helpful. Until next time, I'm Shannon Evans with the Tombigbee Tales.